One of the most common questions I get asked is which Bible translations I would recommend. Seeing as how I often criticize Bible translations and I tend to invalidate popular versions, I thought I would alleviate people's concerns that I just don't think there's a good Bible out there for us to read. Contrary to the sense of despair and hopelessness some might infer from my critiques, I do think there are a handful of Bible translations that meet my criteria of excellence and are thereby suitable for my recommendation. Although no translation is perfect, these are still what I would consider quality far above the rest. And especially for devotional rather than academic purposes, these Bibles are more than sufficient. Lastly, I want to note that while most people ask me for what's the best Bible for academic standards and accuracy, I will not be confining my list of recommended Bibles to just academic purposes. I understand that the Bible is also an integral part in people's religious and devotional lives, and so many of these are judged not merely on the basis of scholarly acumen, but also devotional worth. Whenever someone asks me which Bible translation I would recommend, I start out with this. Unfortunately, there is not a single publication containing both Old and New Testament together that is also the most accurate or what I would consider the best. The best translations that I have found are either a translation of the Hebrew Bible on its own or a translation of the New Testament on its own. But the combined publications, such as the NIV, ESV, or NASB, simply do not meet my quality requirements. At the same time, there are still really good translations with combined testaments, the way that Christians organize the Bible, and there are definitely some single publication versions that are better than the rest. I'll list these combined publications first, and then get to the most accurate, best Bible translations afterward. If you've been through university in religious studies or seminary, or if you just do your own due diligence, then you'll understand why these translations are so commendable. So instead of going into great detail about every translation, I'll simply list the version and make a few comments on why it's on the list or what's special about it. So, without further ado, if you want a convenient Bible that isn't two separate books, here are the combined Testament publications that I would recommend or that I myself refer to. Number 1. The Wickliffe Bible. It's the first full English translation of the Vulgate, has insightful translation decisions, if for no other reason than raw literalness. One of my favorite things, for instance, is using the word health instead of salvation. Number 2. The King James Version with Apocrypha. It's the classic Bible, unparalleled style and elegance that only the Coverdale can beat. Number 3. Lexham. It's what the NASB wished it could be. Number 4. The New English Translation with Apocrypha. Tons and tons and tons of footnotes and really up-to-date scholarship. Number 5. The Douay-Rheims. It gets things right in odd places where others don't. Number 6. The Knox Bible. It's the dynamic equivalent of the Douay. Number 7. The Coverdale Bible. Accuracy and beauty. Number 8. Rotherham's Emphasized. Better than Young's literal and provides accuracy without sacrificing nuance. Number 9. The New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition with Apocrypha. That's a mouthful. University or seminary favorite. It's what the NET wished it could be, it's the most recommended Bible for academic study, and the updated edition is the Bible with the absolute most up-to-date scholarship. Now, I would say that the list was in no particular order, but among the translations I listed, my least favorite would be the Lexham and the NET. Also, I rarely ever refer to the Wickliffe or Knox Bibles. For devotional purposes, I would say the best old translation would easily be the Coverdale Bible, and the best modern translation would be the NRSV Updated Edition. Now for the very best Bible translations, the versions I confidently recommend and that I actually refer to and regularly use despite the inconvenience. Starting with the Hebrew Bible. The New Jewish Publication Society Tanakh, NJPS. This is the standard text used by practicing Jews and any self-respecting scholar studying the Hebrew Bible. Thankfully, this can be found for free online at sefaria.org. Next we come to the Robert Alter translation. Now, I cannot praise this highly enough. Not only is this the most accurate English translation from the Hebrew, Robert Alter captures the poetic and stylistic qualities of the original Hebrew as best as someone possibly could in English. He has an ingenious way of retaining some of the wordplay, for example, translating Adam afaramin Adama into God fashioned the human humus from the soil. Lastly, we have the Everett Fox translation. Now, I just recently found out about this one, and from what I can tell, it's very similar to the Alter translation, but it seems to me that Robert Alter just did a better job compared to any of the things that Fox did a good job at. Now, the only problem with these three translations of the Hebrew Bible is that they exclusively use the Masoretic text. So it's best to pair it with the NRSV updated edition so that you can have more updated scholarship and references to things like the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now for the New Testament translations. The first one I'll mention is the Andy Gause Unvarnished New Testament. This is probably my most controversial choice, but despite being really good, it's also not half as good as the last two I'll mention. The Unvarnished New Testament is somewhat like a dynamic equivalence, yet translates some things so literally that they break away from the expected norms and lingo of traditional Christianity. At the same time, the translation is not what you would call anti-traditional or outlandish. For example, the Beatitudes read, "The poor in spirit are in luck. The kingdom of the skies is theirs." It's just a refreshing translation. Now for the two absolute best New Testament translations. The Robert M. Price Pre-Nicene New Testament and the David Bentley Hart New Testament. I think Price's translation is arguably the best at capturing the sense and meaning of the original authors rather than erecting a wall of reverence, what's known as the frozen register, between the reader and the text, as almost every serious translation does. I also think it's valuable that Price included extra canonical writings that early Christians would have read and used, rather than sticking to the Orthodox canon that was set in the 4th and 5th century. The footnotes and commentary in Robert Price's pre-Nicene New Testament are vast and exhaustive. It's definitely more than most people even want to know, and his knowledge of early Christianity is exceptional. So, while that's not the translation itself, it's still handy and informative. That said, Hart's translation is probably the best New Testament translation that has ever been made into English. It's exceedingly thoughtful, reverent, and virtually immune to criticism, as even his controversial translation decisions are at least equally legitimate as the alternatives. Thank you for watching, and I sincerely hope this video is helpful to anyone interested in biblical studies, whether from a devotional or academic stance. I hope that you can check out these translations, read them, use them, and that they improve the quality of your studies. Also, one last note. I highly recommend the other writings of Robert Alter besides his translation of the Hebrew Bible, as his works on the text and translation process are very informative. I also recommend the writings of David Bentley Hart, as he is an accomplished and admirable theologian, and it would do every Christian some good to read his book, That All Shall Be Saved.